Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Terran Vengeance, watching the stars through the massive view screen. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't care. Something felt wrong today. The sensors had been picking up strange readings all morning, and his gut told him trouble was coming. "Captain, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace," called Lieutenant Sarah Johnson from her station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "Size and number unknown." "They're big, sir." Jake set down his cup and moved to the command chair. "How big are we talking about?" "Bigger than anything in our records, Captain. The computer can't even classify them properly." The view screen flickered and changed. Where empty space had been moments before, now hung the largest fleet Jake had ever seen. Ships of every shape and size filled the void, their hulls gleaming with alien metals and energy fields. Some looked like crystals, others resembled organic creatures. At the center sat a vessel so massive it could have been a small moon. "Mother of God," whispered Commander Tony Blake from the tactical station. "There must be thousands of them." Jake felt his heart race, but kept his voice calm. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Send an immediate message to Earth Command. Tell them we have first contact, and it doesn't look friendly." The communications officer, Ensign Mike Torres, looked up from his console. "Captain, they're hailing us." On screen, the image of space disappeared, replaced by something that made several crew members gasp. The being on the screen looked like living crystal, its body reflecting light in strange patterns. When it spoke, its voice echoed as if coming from a deep cave. "Human vessel, I am Zeph Prime, Speaker for the Galaxy Council. You will prepare to receive our terms." Jake stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Empire ship Vengeance. What are your intentions in human space?" "Human space." The crystal being's laugh sounded like breaking glass. "You simple creatures claim ownership of what is not yours. We have watched your species spread like a disease across worlds that belong to older, wiser races. This ends now." Before Jake could respond, the image changed. Now he saw what looked like a floating brain with tentacles, its surface pulsing with veins of light. This new alien spoke with a voice that seemed to whisper directly into their minds. "I am Mind Lord Vrex of the Vorthak. For 3,000 years, the Galaxy Council has maintained peace among the civilized species. Your kind threatens that peace with your violent expansion and primitive thinking." Jake gripped the arms of his chair. "We've never attacked anyone who didn't attack us first. Our colonies are built on empty worlds." "Empty to you, perhaps," Zeph Prime's image returned, "but claimed by others long before your species learned to make fire. The Council has decided. You will hear our terms." The screen split to show both aliens, along with several others Jake didn't recognize. One looked like a giant insect. Another resembled a walking tree. All of them stared at him with what he could only describe as contempt. "The human species will immediately cease all expansion beyond your current borders," Zeph Prime continued. "You will surrender your military vessels and advance weapons to Council representatives. Your government will submit to Council oversight in all matters, and you will provide tribute of rare metals and energy sources for the next 1,000 of your years." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. "And if we refuse?" Mind Lord Vrex's tentacles writhed. "Then your species will be eliminated completely. Every human world will be cleansed. Your kind will become nothing more than a memory. You have 72 of your hours to decide," Zeph Prime added. "Choose wisely, humans. This is the only offer you will receive." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake stared at the view screen, now showing the enormous alien fleet again. Some of the ships were moving into positions around human colonies. Others headed toward Earth itself. "Captain," Sarah said quietly, "Admiral Turner is requesting immediate contact from Earth Command." Jake nodded. "Put her through." Admiral Lisa Turner's face appeared on the screen, even across the vast distance of space. Jake could see the worry in her eyes. "Jake, please tell me your good news." "I'm afraid not, Admiral. They want complete surrender, or they'll wipe us out." Turner was quiet for a moment. The same message was delivered to Earth directly. President Carter is calling an emergency meeting. How long do we have? 72 hours. That's not enough time to evacuate even one colony. Turner's jaw tightened. Jake, I want you to fall back to defensive positions, but don't engage unless they fire first. We need time to figure out our options. Understood, Admiral. What about the colonies on the outer rim? We're sending orders to all fleet commanders. Protect what you can, but don't start a war we can't win. After the transmission ended, Jake looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, waiting for orders. These were good people, brave people. They'd followed him through battles against pirates and rebel forces. But this was different. This was their entire species facing extinction. Sir, Commander Blake asked, "What are we going to do?" Jake stood up slowly. "We're going to do what humans always do when someone tries to push us around. We're going to push back." "But, Captain, look at the size of their fleet. We're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Jake smiled grimly. "Tony, have you ever heard of David and Goliath? The old Bible story?" "Sure. Sometimes the little guy wins, especially when he's fighting for his home." Jake turned to face the view screen again, where the alien fleet waited like a pack of predators. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. It's time to see what President Carter has to say about these terms. As the Terran Vengeance jumped to hyperspace, leaving the alien fleet behind, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would bow down in fear. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Humanity had never backed down from a fight, and they weren't about to start now. Deep beneath the red surface of Mars, Dr. Susan Mitchell walked through corridors that didn't exist on any official map. The underground facility stretched for miles in every direction, hidden from alien sensors by layers of rock and advanced shielding technology. She carried a data pad filled with information that could change everything. The elevator took her down another 100 feet to the main laboratory. Here, dozens of scientists worked day and night on projects that would seem impossible just 5 years ago. Captured alien technology sat on workbenches next to human innovations. The air hummed with energy fields and strange vibrations. Dr. Mitchell called out Dr. Kevin Walsh, looking up from a device that glowed with blue light. "The quantum displacement tests are ready for your review." Susan nodded and walked over to examine his work. The device looked simple enough, about the size of a dinner plate, but she knew it represented years of research. "Show me what it can do." Kevin activated a control panel. Across the room, a thick steel wall had been set up as a target. He aimed the device and pressed a button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the steel wall simply fell apart. Its molecules scattered harmlessly across the floor. "It phases through any known shield technology," Kevin explained. "The aliens use energy barriers to protect their ships, but this weapon ignores them completely. It disrupts matter at the quantum level." Susan smiled for the first time in days. "How many can we produce in 72 hours? "We have 50 ready now. The automated systems can make another 200 if we push them to maximum output." She moved to the next station, where another team worked on something that looked like a suit of armor. The metal was black and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "What about the adaptive camouflage?" Dr. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her computer screen. "Better than we hoped, Doctor. The suits can copy any background and make the wearer nearly invisible. We've tested them against every type of sensor in our database." "Even alien sensors?" "We used capture equipment from those pirate raids last year. The Kithra detection systems couldn't find our test subjects even when they were standing right in front of them." Susan felt a surge of hope. When the Council's ultimatum had arrived, President Carter had immediately contacted Project Prometheus. The facility had been created in secret after humanity's first encounters with hostile alien forces. While diplomats talked about peace, scientists prepared for war. Her communicator buzzed. "Dr. Mitchell, you're needed in the war room immediately." The war room was another hidden chamber, this one filled with holographic displays showing the positions of alien fleets around human space. President John Carter stood at the center, surrounded by his top military advisors. General Frank Rodriguez pointed at various locations on the map, while Admiral Lisa Turner studied fleet movements. "Susan," President Carter said as she entered, "please tell me you have good news." "Better than good, Mr. President. We have weapons that can penetrate their shields and armor that can hide our ships from their sensors. But there's something else." She activated her datapad, and a new display appeared in the air. It showed detailed scans of alien ships, their internal structures visible like X-ray images. "We've been studying every piece of alien technology we could get our hands on," Susan continued. "Their ships are more advanced than ours in many ways, but they have a critical weakness. They rely on quantum link communication networks to coordinate their fleets." General Rodriguez leaned forward. "What does that mean for us?" "It means they're all connected. If we can disrupt that network, their entire fleet becomes confused and disorganized, like cutting the strings on a puppet." Admiral Turner's eyes widened. "Can you do it?" "We think so, but we need to get close to their command ship first." President Carter walked over to the display, showing alien fleet positions. Thousands of red dots surrounded blue markers, representing human colonies. "How close?" "Within 50 kilometers. Close enough to deploy a neural cascade disruptor." "That's practically suicide," General Rodriguez said. "No ship could get that close without being destroyed." Susan smiled. "Not with conventional technology. But we have something they've never seen before." She activated another file on her datapad. The display showed sleek, black ships unlike anything in the current human fleet. Stealth destroyers, invisible to alien sensors, armed with quantum displacement weapons, and fast enough to get in and out before they know what hit them. President Carter studied the images. "How many do we have?" 12 are operational. Another 8 will be ready in 48 hours. Admiral Turner moved closer to examine the ship designs. "Who's going to pilot them?" "I am." Everyone turned to see Commander Rick Davis entering the room. He was young for a commander, but his record in covert operations was flawless. Behind him walked Lieutenant Colonel Maria Gonzalez, head of Terran Special Forces. "Commander Davis," President Carter said, "this mission is extremely dangerous." "Sir, with respect, everything is dangerous now, but this gives us a chance to win instead of just survive." Maria stepped forward. "Mr. President, I've been in contact with resistance cells on occupied worlds. Not all the alien species support the Council's decision. Some were forced to join their fleet against their will." "Which species?" Admiral Turner asked. "The Kithra have been sending secret messages. They've been under Council control for 200 years and want to break free. The Benthians are traitors who got caught in the middle. There are others." General Rodriguez looked skeptical. "How do we know this isn't a trap?" "Because," Maria said, "some of them have already started helping us. 3 Council supply convoys have mysteriously disappeared in the past week. Their cargo included shield generators and weapon components." Susan pulled up another display. "That matches our intelligence. The Council fleet is having supply problems. They expected humanity to surrender immediately, so they didn't bring enough resources for a long campaign." President Carter was quiet for a long moment, studying all the information. Finally, he looked up at his advisors. "How long do we need to prepare everything?" 60 hours, Susan replied. "Just under the deadline." "And you really think this will work?" Commander Davis spoke up. "Sir, I've read every report about human military history. We've always been outnumbered. We've always faced enemies with better weapons. But we win because we adapt faster than anyone expects." Admiral Turner nodded. "He's right, Mr. President. The aliens think they know everything about human technology based on what they've seen. They have no idea what we've been developing in secret." President Carter walked to the window that looked out over the Martian landscape. Above, the stars were hidden by the planet's thin atmosphere, but he knew alien ships were up there, waiting for humanity's answer. "Very well," he said finally. "We'll give them an answer they'll never forget. Susan, prepare everything you have. Rick, select your best pilots. Maria, coordinate with your resistance contacts." He turned back to face the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, In 60 hours, we're going to show the Galaxy Council that humanity doesn't bow to anyone. We're going to teach them that when you threaten Earth, you'd better be ready for the consequences. Outside, the secret facilities hummed with activity as humanity prepared to reveal its hidden strength. The 72-hour deadline passed without a word from Earth. Zeth Prime waited aboard his massive command ship, watching the human colonies through his sensors. The creatures had remained silent, which meant they were either too stupid to understand the threat or too proud to surrender. Either way, their fate was sealed. "Begin the cleansing," he ordered. "Start with the outer colonies. Make it slow, so the others can watch and learn." Across human space, the Council fleet moved into attack positions, their energy weapons charged, ready to burn entire worlds clean of human life. But as the first shots fired, something unexpected happened. On the farming colony of New Texas, the alien beam struck what appeared to be empty fields. Instead of destroying crops and buildings, the energy was absorbed by hidden shield generators buried deep underground. The entire planet lit up with a blue glow as defensive systems came online. "What is this?" demanded Mind Lord Rex, his tentacles writhing in confusion. Their technology readings showed no advanced defenses. Similar scenes played out across a dozen worlds. Colonies that had seemed helpless suddenly revealed weapons platforms rising from hidden bunkers. Energy shields flickered to life around major cities. And most shocking of all, the human colonists weren't running in panic. They were fighting back. On New Texas, Mayor Robert Kelly stood in the colony's command center, watching the battle through his screens. He'd been a soldier before becoming a farmer, and he'd never forgotten his training. Fire all batteries. Show these aliens what humans do to uninvited guests. Missiles streaked upward from concealed launchers, striking the nearest Council ships. The alien shields held, but the humans had more surprises. These weren't ordinary missiles. They were armed with quantum displacement warheads that phased through energy barriers like they weren't there. The first Council cruiser exploded in a ball of fire, its debris raining down on the planet's atmosphere. The aliens had never seen weapons that could ignore their defensive systems. In space above the colony, Captain Jake Morrison led a squadron of human fighters against the alien fleet. The Terran Vengeance had been refitted with the new stealth technology, making it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. "Remember," Jake said over the comm system, "hit fast and move. Don't let them get a lock on you." His pilots responded with determination. They'd trained for this moment their entire careers. The alien ships were bigger and more powerful, but human fighters were faster and harder to catch. Lieutenant Sarah Johnson piloted her fighter directly at his Eltharian destroyer, its crystal hull reflecting the light of the system star. Her quantum torpedoes found their mark, and the alien ship shuddered as its internal systems failed. "Direct hit," she reported. Their shields didn't even slow it down. Across the galaxy, similar battles erupted as the Council discovered that their easy conquest had turned into a real war. On the mining world of Kepler-7, Administrator Paul Wright coordinated the defense from his underground bunker. "The aliens are pulling back," reported his security chief, Captain Janet Foster. They weren't expecting this level of resistance. Paul nodded grimly. "Good. Send word to the other colonies. Phase 1 is working." But the real surprise was yet to come. In the asteroid belt near Mars, Colonel Steve Parker waited with his team aboard a hidden base. They'd spent weeks placing displacement mines throughout the space around Earth, invisible to alien sensors, but ready to activate at a moment's notice. "Colonel," his communications officer called out, "Admiral Turner is giving the signal." Steve smiled. "Activate all mines. Let's give our visitors a proper welcome." Throughout the Sol system, space itself seemed to come alive. Hundreds of small explosions appeared around the Council fleet as the displacement mines activated. Unlike normal explosives, these weapons materialized inside enemy ships, bypassing all their defenses. The alien formation fell into chaos as ships found themselves crippled by internal explosions. Their quantum link communication system carried panic from ship to ship as commanders tried to understand what was happening. On Earth, President John Carter watched the battle through satellite feeds. Admiral Lisa Turner stood beside him, coordinating the defense from the Pentagon's war room. Sir, she said, the first phase is exceeding all expectations. Enemy casualties are at 30% and rising. Carter nodded, but his expression remained serious. What about their reinforcements? Long-range sensors show additional fleets approaching from Council space. They're bringing everything they have. Then it's time for Phase 2. Carter activated the global communication system. This is President Carter speaking to all human colonies and military units. The Council thought we would surrender like frightened children. They were wrong. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity bows to no one. His words were broadcast across every human world, carried by quantum transmitters that the aliens couldn't intercept. In response, hidden bases across human space began launching ships that the Council had never seen before. The stealth destroyers emerged from their concealment, like ghosts becoming real. Their black holes absorbed light and sensor beams, making them nearly impossible to detect. Commander Rick Davis led the squadron personally, his ship loaded with a neural cascade disruptor that could cripple the entire Council fleet. This is Ghost Leader, he transmitted to his pilots. Target the command ship. One shot is all we need. The stealth ships moved through the battle, like sharks through water, invisible to the alien sensors. Council ships fired wildly in all directions, trying to hit enemies they couldn't see. Meanwhile, across Council space, the alien reinforcements rushed toward Earth. But they were about to face an even bigger surprise. Maria Gonzalez's resistance contacts had been busy, and several alien species were ready to change sides. The Kithara ships suddenly turned their weapons on their Council escorts. The Benthian traders activated hidden weapons and joined the fight against their former captors. What had been a unified alien fleet became a civil war as species that had been forced into the Council finally saw their chance for freedom. Back at Earth, Zeph Prime watched his perfect plan fall apart. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were winning. His advanced sensors finally detected the approaching stealth ships, but it was too late. Impossible, he whispered as a neural cascade disruptor activated. How did they learn to build such weapons? The quantum-linked network that connected all Council ships suddenly went silent. Thousands of alien vessels found themselves cut off from their command structure, unable to coordinate their attacks. In the space of minutes, the most powerful fleet in galactic history had become a collection of confused, isolated ships. Commander Davis's voice crackled over the human communication channels. Ghost Leader to all units. The network is down. Repeat, the Council network is down. All ships attack at will. The tide of battle turned completely. Human ships that had been outnumbered 1,000 to 1 suddenly found themselves fighting confused enemies that couldn't work together. The displacement weapons continued to tear through alien hulls while the stealth technology made human ships nearly impossible to target. On his command ship, Zeph Prime realized that everything the Council thought they knew about humans was wrong. These weren't primitive creatures to be easily conquered. They were warriors who had been preparing for this moment, hiding their true strength until the perfect time to strike. The first battle was over, but the war had just begun, and for the first time in 3,000 years, the Galaxy Council was losing. 3 weeks after the first battle, emergency reinforcements from the deepest parts of Council space finally arrived at Earth. The aliens had brought their most powerful warships and their best commanders. Zeph Prime had been replaced by War Master Kelvox, a veteran of 100 campaigns who had never lost a battle. The humans got lucky once. Kelvox announced to his fleet commanders, "They will not get lucky again. We will crush them completely this time." But humanity had not been idle during those 3 weeks. Admiral Lisa Turner stood in the newly constructed command center on Luna, watching holographic displays that showed human fleets moving toward alien homeworlds across the galaxy. Operation Starburst is ready to begin, she reported to President Carter via secure communication. All strike teams are in position. Carter's image nodded from the screen. Give them hell, Lisa. Show the galaxy that humanity doesn't just defend. We attack. The plan was bold beyond anything humans had ever attempted. Instead of waiting for the aliens to attack again, humanity would strike at the heart of Council territory. Multiple fleets would hit alien homeworlds simultaneously, forcing the Council to defend their own space instead of threatening Earth. Captain Emma Walsh commanded the assault fleet heading toward the Vorthak homeworld. Her ship, the Terran Liberator, led 50 other vessels through hyperspace toward the psychic aliens' planet. The Vorthak had always controlled other species through mental domination, but humans had a natural resistance to psychic attacks that the aliens had never encountered before. 10 minutes to target. Her navigation officer announced, "All ships report ready for combat." Emma studied the intelligence reports one more time. The Vorthak homeworld was protected by massive space stations and hundreds of warships. But intelligence from Maria Gonzalez's resistance network showed that most of their fleet had been sent to Earth, leaving their home defenses weaker than usual. "All ships, this is Captain Walsh," she transmitted to her fleet. "Remember, the Vorthak will try to get inside your minds. Keep your mental shields active and trust your training. These aliens have enslaved entire species for thousands of years. Today, we set them free." The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly above the Vorthak planet. The world below was covered in strange cities that looked like giant brains made of metal and crystal. Energy fields connected the buildings, creating a network that amplified the alien psychic powers. Immediately, the Vorthak defenders tried their most powerful weapon. Waves of mental energy swept toward the human ships, attempting to drive the crews insane or force them to turn their weapons on each other. But the humans had prepared for this. Each ship carried mental shielding generators based on technology developed from studying captured Vorthak equipment. The psychic attacks hit the shields and scattered harmlessly into space. "Mental shields holding," reported Commander Lisa Martinez from her position at the tactical station. "Their psychic weapons are useless against us." Emma smiled grimly. "Then let's show them what happens when they can't control our minds. All ships, attack pattern Delta. Target their amplification stations first." The human fleet spread out and began hitting the planet's surface with quantum displacement weapons. The strange cities that boosted Vorthak mental powers began exploding one by one. Without their technological amplifiers, the aliens found their psychic abilities greatly reduced. On the planet's surface, Sergeant Bill Thompson led the first wave of human Marines down in landing shuttles. They wore the new adaptive armor that made them nearly invisible and protected them from energy weapons. "Remember," he told his troops over the comm system, "these aliens have never fought an enemy they couldn't control mentally. They don't know how to fight fair. That gives us a big advantage." The Marines landed near the largest Vorthak city and immediately came under attack from floating alien warriors whose tentacles crackled with psychic energy. But when their mental blasts failed to stop the humans, the Vorthak panicked. "They're running," reported Corporal Jennifer Lewis in amazement. "The aliens are actually running away from us." Bill wasn't surprised. When you spend your whole life winning through cheating, you don't know what to do when someone plays by different rules. Keep moving. We need to secure their command center. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other human fleets were having similar success. Commander Lisa Martinez led the attack on the Council's primary shipyard in the Andorian sector. Using access codes provided by Kithra rebels, her ships had infiltrated the heavily defended system without being detected. "All teams, this is Martinez," she transmitted to her assault squadrons. "The facility produces 40% of all Council warships. If we destroy it, they won't be able to replace their losses." The shipyard was enormous, stretching across 3 asteroid fields and protected by energy shields and automated defense platforms. But Maria Gonzalez had provided detailed plans showing weak points in the facility's defenses. Human fighters swooped through the asteroid fields, planting quantum displacement charges on key support structures. The aliens' energy shields were useless against weapons that could phase through matter. "Charges set," reported fighter leader Dan Rodriguez. "Facility will be completely destroyed in 5 minutes." Lisa watched through her ship's sensors as the massive shipyard began tearing itself apart. Explosions rippled through construction bays where new alien warships had been taking shape. Years of work disappeared in minutes. But the most important battle was taking place in space around Earth, where Dr. Susan Mitchell's research team was preparing to deploy their ultimate weapon. The neural cascade disruptor had worked perfectly in the first battle, but this time they needed something even more powerful. "The new device is ready," Susan reported to Admiral Turner. We need to get it within range of their command ship. The problem was that War Master Kelvox had learned from the previous battle. His flagship stayed in the center of the alien formation, protected by layers of escort ships and energy fields. "I'll get you there," promised Commander Rick Davis, his stealth destroyer already moving toward the alien fleet. "Ghost Squadron will run interference while you deploy the device." Rick's ships were completely invisible to alien sensors, but getting close enough to deploy the Cascade Disruptor meant flying to the middle of the largest space battle in galactic history. Thousands of ships from dozens of species fired at each other, while the fate of entire civilizations hung in the balance. "Ghost leader to all units," Rick transmitted. "The device is away. All ships, get clear of the target area." The second Neural Cascade Disruptor was much more powerful than the first. Instead of just disrupting communication between ships, it was designed to overload the quantum networks that connected entire star systems. When it activated, the effect was immediate and devastating. Every Council ship within 50 light-years suddenly lost contact with their command structure. Alien fleets that had been coordinated across multiple star systems became isolated and confused. On his flagship, War Master Kelvox watched in horror as his carefully planned offensive fell apart. His own ships were cut off from the Central Command network, unable to receive orders or coordinate with other fleets. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "No species in the galaxy has this level of quantum technology." His science officer, trembling with fear, brought him the analysis reports. "War Master, the humans didn't just copy our technology. They improved it. Their quantum weapons are more advanced than anything in our databases." The tide of the war had turned completely. Across the galaxy, Council worlds found themselves under attack by species they had oppressed for centuries. The Kithera had openly joined humanity's side, bringing with them detailed knowledge of Council weaknesses. The Benthian traders provided supply lines and intelligence networks. Even some of the older Council species began questioning whether the war was worth continuing. Admiral Turner received reports from all fronts as she coordinated humanity's galaxy-wide offensive. Captain Walsh reports the Vorthack homeworld is secure. Commander Martinez has destroyed the Andorian shipyard. Resistance forces on 12 Council worlds have declared independence. President Carter smiled as he read the reports. "And what about our friends in the Council fleet?" Dr. Mitchell answered from her position at the science station. "Sir, the Cascade Disruptor worked even better than expected. Most of their fleets are scattered and disorganized. They're fighting individual battles instead of a coordinated campaign. The Galaxy Council's attempt to crush humanity had backfired completely. Instead of an easy conquest, they faced a galaxy-wide rebellion led by a species they had completely underestimated. The humans weren't just defending themselves anymore. They were liberating entire civilizations and reshaping the balance of power across the stars." War Master Kelvox stared at his tactical displays, watching his mighty fleet fall apart. The humans had done the impossible. They had turned the Council's greatest strength into their greatest weakness. 6 months after the Galaxy Council's ultimatum, President John Carter stood in what had once been the most feared place in the galaxy. The Council chamber on the ancient world of Nexus Prime had been the center of alien power for 3,000 years. Now it belonged to humanity and their allies. The massive room still showed signs of the final battle. Scorch marks decorated the crystal walls where energy weapons had fired during the last desperate fight. The floating throne where Council Speaker Zeth Prime had once given orders to entire star systems now sat empty and dark. Carter walked to the center of the chamber, where holographic displays showed the current state of the galaxy. Blue markers represented human and allied forces. Red markers showed the few remaining Council holdouts. The map told the story clearly. The war was over, and humanity had won completely. "Mr. President," Admiral Lisa Turner said as she entered the chamber, "the last Council fleet has surrendered. War Master Kelvox is requesting terms." Carter nodded. "Bring him in. It's time to end this properly." The doors opened and the defeated alien commander entered under heavy guard. Kelvox had once commanded fleets that could destroy entire star systems. Now he looked old and broken, his scaled skin pale with defeat. "Human leader, Kelvok said in his translated voice, I come to discuss surrender terms for my remaining forces. Carter studied the alien for a moment. This creature had planned to wipe out every human in the galaxy. But Carter had learned something important during the war. Victory meant nothing if you became as cruel as your enemies. Commander Kelvox, Carter said, your surrender is accepted. Your ships will be disarmed, and your crews will be processed as prisoners of war. You will be treated according to the Geneva Convention. Kelvox looked confused. Geneva Convention? I do not know this term. It's a human document that explains how prisoners should be treated, with dignity and respect, even if they are enemies. The alien's eyes widened in surprise. You will not execute us? Your species has one total victory. By council law, the defeated should be eliminated completely. Carter shook his head. We're not the council. We're better than that. After Kelvox was led away, Carter turned back to the holographic displays. The galaxy was free, but freedom meant responsibility. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds were looking to humanity for leadership. Dr. Susan Mitchell entered the chamber, carrying a data pad filled with reports. Mr. President, the liberation teams have reached the last of the slave worlds. The hegemony mining colonies have been freed, and the Vorthack breeding centers have been shut down. Carter felt sick thinking about what they had discovered on Council worlds. Entire species have been enslaved for centuries, their populations used as workers or test subjects. The Vorthack have been especially cruel, using other beings as living amplifiers for their psychic powers. What about medical support for the freed populations? Carter asked. Dr. Kevin Walsh has teams working around the clock. Many of the slaves haven't seen sunlight in generations. It will take time to help them recover. Admiral Turner joined them at the tactical display. Sir, we also need to discuss what to do with former Council territory. 47 star systems are asking to join the new government. Another 61 protection treaties. Carter had been thinking about this problem for weeks. The old council had ruled through fear and force. Humanity needed to do things differently. What we need, he said slowly, is not an empire, but a commonwealth, a voluntary association of free worlds working together for mutual benefit. Susan looked up from her datapad. The Kithra ambassador has suggested something similar. They call it the Alliance of Free Worlds in their language. The doors opened again, and Captain Jake Morrison entered, still wearing his combat uniform. His ship had just returned from the Outer Rim, where the last pockets of Council resistance had been eliminated. Mr. President, Jake said, I have a report from Captain Emma Walsh. The Vorthack homeworld has been completely pacified. The former slaves there are asking for human protection. Carter nodded. Granted. What about the Vorthack themselves? Most of them seem lost without their psychic network. Dr. Mitchell's team thinks they can adapt to normal life, but it will take time. This was the challenge humanity faced. They had broken the chains that held the galaxy in darkness, but now they had to help billions of beings learn to live in the light. Commander Rick Davis arrived with another group of freed aliens. These were Benthians, the trading species that had helped humanity during the war. Their leader, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, approached Carter with obvious respect. President Carter, the alien said through his translator, I am Trade Master Velen. My people wish to formally thank humanity for our freedom. Carter smiled. Your people helped us too, Trade Master. We won this war together. Yes, but humans could have chosen to become the new rulers, as the Council did before you. Instead, you offer partnership. This is unusual. Carter looked around the chamber at all the different species represented. Humans, Kithra, Benthians, freed slaves from dozens of worlds, even some former Council species who had switched sides during the war. Trade Master Velen, Carter said, humanity learned something important a long time ago. Freedom isn't worth having if you don't share it with others. Over the following weeks, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on Nexus Prime to create a new government. The Terran Commonwealth, as it came to be called, was based on principles that would have seemed impossible under Council rule. Every member world had an equal vote, regardless of size or military power. No species could be forced to join or prevented from leaving. Technology and knowledge would be shared freely among all members. And most importantly, no world would ever again face the threat of conquest alone. Captain Tony Roberts, now promoted to admiral, commanded the first mixed-species fleet in galactic history. His crew included humans, Kithera, Benthians, and even some reformed Vorthak who had learned to live without dominating others. Admiral Roberts to Commonwealth Command. He reported from his flagship, "Patrol of the Outer Rim is complete. All trade routes are secure and functioning normally." The galaxy was healing. Worlds that had been strip-mined by Council forces were being restored. Species that had been separated for centuries were reunited. And everywhere, beings who had lived in fear were learning to hope again. Commander Lisa Martinez, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Commonwealth, sent regular reports back to her homeworld. "The transformation is remarkable," she wrote. "Former enemy worlds are becoming our closest allies. The Zeltharians, once the most rigid supporters of Council rule, are now leading efforts to establish universal education programs." But perhaps the most important change was in humanity itself. The species that had once focused mainly on their own expansion now saw themselves as guardians of galactic freedom. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, working with scientists from a dozen species, made breakthrough discoveries that would have taken centuries to achieve alone. "When you combine human innovation with Kithera mathematics and Benthian engineering," she reported, "you get solutions that none of US could find by ourselves." President Carter's final act in the old council chamber was to order its conversion into a museum. The throne where tyrants had once ruled will become a reminder of what happens when power is concentrated in too few hands. As he prepared to leave Nexus Prime and return to Earth, Carter took one last look at the holographic display. The galaxy was no longer divided between rulers and subjects. It was a community of free worlds, each contributing their unique strengths to the common good. "Mr. President," Admiral Turner said, "are you ready to go home?" Carter smiled. "Lisa, I think the whole galaxy is home now." The transport ship that carried them back to Earth was escorted by vessels from 20 different species. Where once there had been fear and oppression, now there was friendship and cooperation. The Galaxy Council's ultimatum had failed completely in trying to destroy humanity. They had instead created something the galaxy had never seen before. A civilization based not on conquest, but on the revolutionary idea that all beings deserve to be free. And at the center of it all was a species that had refused to bow down, no matter what the odds against them.